morning, everybody. Jean here. Welcome back to my sewing room. I'm going to be doing a tutorial this morning of a certain block that I've actually just perfected it myself. It's called the Pinwheel Block. I've been sewing for over 50 years, but I've only been quilting for about 12 years. I'm not a beginner. I've made over many hundreds of quilts, but this block always stymied me a little bit. And as you know, I like to wing it a little bit. I'm not into, like, I do follow patterns, but I don't follow patterns really specifically. I like to make things up as I go along. And this pinwheel block, I was experimenting, but I also, before I get into the actual tutorial, I wanted to say that I've gotten a lot of comments on my YouTube videos about how people are new. They're new to quilting, they're newbies, they're novices, they're beginners. And I was thinking, when you go on a tutorial, it's pretty much because you don't know something. Or like me, you want to expand what you do know. But more often than not, people are saying to my actual quilting, thank you for showing me those basics. So from now on, I'm a little bit all over the place, but from now on, I'm going to be concentrating on you beginners, on you new quilters. I've, again, gone on YouTube and I see these wonderful professional quilters with their beautiful studios, and behind them, on their design wall, there's a fabulous quilt, and they said, today we're going to be showing you how to make this. And it's a beautiful quilt. You're like, oh, it's like a queen size quilt, twin size quilt. And they pick up a paper and they said, you're going to need 2.5 yards of fabric for this and 1.5 yards. You're feverishly writing it down, and now we're going to make this block and blah blah blah. Now we're going to construct it like this. And I'm thinking, personally, I'm thinking that's not for new. That's not a beginner quilt. It's a simple quilt, but why do they show something so big? I think if you're a beginner, who I'm going to be making my videos for, if you're experienced, you don't have to watch me. But like, I think, make something small. Make a coaster. Make a quilted placemat. From start to finish. You won't get discouraged. So back to my pinwheel quilt block. What I've made, I just pulled some fabric out of my extensive fabric collection. I actually just was practicing making my pinwheel block. This is it. This is what I was saying. It's a simple looking block, and now the way it's been constructed, I've perfected it, and so can you. But right here, there's actually 8 seams that meet, and that can really mess you up. And you're thinking, oh, I can never get that point straight. I'm not all about points. I wing it so much of the time, but let's do this together and let's make this quilt block nice. So I was literally experimenting. I made 3 blocks, and I thought, well, I'm not going to make a huge, great big quilt to show you guys because, you know, again, you want to start making a quilt, and you get all this material and you're making your blocks, right? And you get your sewing machine out and you put it in your dining room table and you have your fabric and you've cut that amount of blocks and everything's in their little Ziploc bags, and all of a sudden, you know, like the dog vomits, or yeah, her husband needs dinner or something ridiculous, and you have to put your quilting away. And then you go back to it and you're like, where was I? And you have to watch that tutorial again. And even a beginner quilt, right? So I'm saying start small. Forget that twin size quilt. Forget that queen size quilt. I started with I thought I was all clever, a foundation piece queen size quilt. I finished it, but it's, and it's near and dear to my heart, but it's a mess. So we're going to be working on, I'm going to be making quilt blocks from now on, making small projects. I don't want you beginners to get discouraged. I want you to have something, even if you don't like a table runner, you can give it away to someone as a present, or you can give it to your dog or something. But like, you've practiced and you've done it well. My daughter actually liked this little table runner. And I'm going to be showing you, for demonstration purposes, another one I've made that I quite like, that I'm probably going to put on my dining room table. But that's what we're going to be doing today. And then I am going to be showing you, this is a certain size block, but I've done the math for you, and maybe you will want to get a pencil and paper, because this is a certain size block, but I'm going to give you what you cut to make smaller blocks. So that's later on in the video. But if you bear with me now, I'm going to get my son to start videotaping me. This is just on a tripod here. So we're going to start making our very simple, very easy pinwheel block quilt. Okay? Thanks. So here we are. Elliot's behind the camera now, and he's going to be showing us in some detail of what I've made. As I just showed you, I've made this little table runner, and if you want to come in and see the actual pinwheel block. Now what you're going to need for this is, obviously you're going to get contrasting fabrics, because you want the contrast between the pinwheel block to show up. This was just a pretty line of fabrics, I believe it's from Moda, showing the contrasting from the small floral. So whatever fabric you choose, you just need the contrast. The pinwheel block is made up of very easy half square triangles, which is the basic building block in quilting. This is 4 half square triangles. And yet, as I was saying, to get this center point, there are 8 seams that meet in the middle here. And it can, without practicing, it can be all jacked up here. So we're going to show you, we're going to go through this, you know, step by step to show you how this actual quilt block is constructed. Now I've actually put this aside. I've actually made 2 quilt blocks. I'm going to be making another table runner. I've gotten this fabric here. I had gotten the same color, the same colorways. This is more of a teal dot, this is a darker blue, and then I have a green dot that I'm going to use, that I'm going to demonstrate. And it's sort of a peacock print table runner that I'm going to make. So I've already made my 2 blocks. So here is what we do. What you're going to be needing for this block, which finishes at 12 inches, this block here starts out, this size block here starts out with, what do I love? There's my machine. I love 10-inch squares, okay? Remember, 10-inch squares. So what I've done is, it's very important for you new quilters, remember, it's not like in sewing with 5/8 seams. If you're new to quilting, your 1/4 inch seam is very important. So however you're going to make your 1/4 inch seam to construct your quilt blocks, either you're going to use your 1/4 inch foot, or you're going to even take a piece of masking tape, and you're going to perfect your 1/4 inch seams. So what we're doing for this block, we're taking my green and white dot with this peacock print, 10-inch squares. Now, it's very important that you start a 1/4 inch from the edge. You're thinking, oh, why can't I just start there and sew a 1/4 inch down? But that's the secret, I think, of this. Oops. Let me set my machine, sorry. I think that's the secret of this block. So there's my needle going down into pretty much a 1/4 inch block. And this, for my machine, the edge of this foot here is a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to be sewing along my 1/4 inch seam, having matched up these 10-inch quilts, the 10-inch fabric squares. Come down, and it might even be turn my hand wheel, it might even be of threads widths. You come down, and there you go, 1/4 inch seam. These are right sides together. Oh, my light's blinking, sorry. Coming along slow and smooth. Bring my wheel to about there. Turn my fabric. Always keep your needle down so you have control. There's my 1/4 inch seam. Coming along. I'm stitching around the outside of this 10-inch square, right sides together. Oh, I gotta get a new light. I messed up. So there, like 1/4 inch. You're thinking, what in the world are you making? Yeah, they're okay. They match up. I cut these, so they're not quite, but that's fine. So there, I'm coming to my 1/4 inch that's here. Just right, and then just one. No, that's fine. That's fine. So now, what I do is I bring this over to my cutting table. And you want to get your long ruler, and just as it sits, you want to take your long ruler and you want to cut from corner to corner without shifting your squares, okay? Without shifting this block. You just want to line your corner up with your rotary cutter. Be very careful. And just slowly and steadily. Rotary cutters can be lethal. You always finish up. You don't touch it. You want to come back and you want to go from this corner to this corner. And with my rotary cutter holding that down, along there, I've cut that. Now what do I make? Oh, it messed up. My rotary cutter's not, my rotary cutter's not sharp enough. Oh, wouldn't you believe it? Oh well, this wouldn't happen. This wouldn't happen if I had a proper way to do it. So anyway, I need a new rotary cutter blade. There you go. It's another tip. So I end up with 4 half square triangles. Very important. Oops, sorry, Elliot. Very important. Oh, I messed it all up. I take them over to my my ironing board. Very important that you actually, it's called setting the seams. Before you press anything open, you want to set these, where the dark side is, this stitching. It just sort of sinks that stitching down into it. It makes for a nicer nicer turn. So again, you're pressing to the dark, you're just rolling that. You're rolling it that way. Rolling it into the dark and pressing. You're rolling that into the dark, pressing your 4 seams. Rolling that. And pressing. This is fairly important that you press these really, really nice. A nice crisp seam. Now, these quilt blocks, these half square triangles, are exactly the same size. Now I'm going to do something that not a lot of other quilters do. These little ends here, these are called dog ears. Look, I've put all 4 quilt squares together. You want to get rid of them. So I just cut them off. You want to get these quilt squares just as they are, those little dog ears. I put them together. You probably want to do them individually. Do them individually if you're not real, cautious. There, get rid of those little dog ears. Now, we're just going to come here, and I'm going to actually show you the pinwheel block. So you have a half square triangle. Now I always get messed up. It's this way. You dark your lights, you dark your lights. There you go. So there is your pinwheel block. Now what you do, don't even have to pin it, because these are pressed the way we've done. You want to lift this one over to here. And these seams nest. See how well they nest right together? So I'm going to come to my sewing machine. And again, a 1/4 inch. Starting at the end, holding my fabrics together. Quarter of an inch seam right along there. Very important. This is the whole thing. 1/4 inch seam. Now, I take my other 2 half square triangles and I put them seam to seam. That nests right along in there, really nice. Put it under my presser foot. Bring the seams, the fabrics together. 1/4 inch, just right along there. Now this is an important part. You cut your things apart. This is important. You take these two back to your ironing board. And we're going to be pressing these 2 quilt blocks. You're going to be wanting to press this one, either the top one or the bottom one way. This seam, this goes one way. I'm doing it that way. Making sure it's perfectly ironed. And then this block, I'm going to be pressing the seam this way. Now this is very important in the construction of this pinwheel block, because this here is the pain in the neck right here, right? This is where everybody gets messed up. All these little seams coming together. So hopefully I've done this properly, and hopefully I'm not going to make a fool of myself, and it's going to be sewed properly. So we're going to take this top block, our pinwheel block, it's going around here. We're going to lift that right down here. Now, again, this seam here that's been pressed that way, and that seam there, which has been pressed this way, just nests up. They nest together. And since you've stitched everything a perfect 1/4 inch, we're going to just pinch that, hold these together. They've been cut exactly the same size. Bring it over to the machine. This is pinched. You probably want to put a pin. I don't. 1/4 inch, lower my presser foot, and start sewing. Slow and smooth. So I'm going to come down to this intersection here. Now it is over 8 pieces of 8 seams. I'm going to put this together. And still my 1/4 inch, extremely important. You can do this. Finish up my block. How long did that take? 5 minutes? So it's a 5-minute pinwheel quilt block. Take it out. Now let me see. Hopefully it's okay. And, oh my word. Look at that, Elliot. Look at that. Look at that. So this, I've made a perfect pinwheel quilt block. Oh my gosh. So you can do this too. Because my pinwheel, I didn't even bother making them because they were so messed up. So this again, you're sort of breaking a rule of quilting. You actually want to open up this seam. You know, in quilting, you always press to the dark side, but this seam, because it's all so many seams in there, you want to press that right open so it lays nice and flat. With a nice hot iron, just keep pressing that seam. And then, look at that. Oh my word. You have a perfectly constructed points. Look at that. Even a professional quilter would say, Jean, you've done really great. That's a hair off. Some people are like anal about that, but like, look, that's unbelievable. So, I come over here, let me just finish up quickly. Now, I've actually done this before. I've made these 3 blocks, right? I'm going to put my quilt blocks together. I'm going to lay them out. Now, this is a table runner. Now, again, I didn't have a pattern. I just laid these 3 quilt blocks out, and I just thought, what could I do here? This is 2 inches. I just cut a 2-inch strip, and I laid my fabric just like this. I laid my fabric and I cut it. So there you go. There's my 2-inch strip. This is a pretty, like, iCat fabric. This is like so this is what it's going to look like, right, with my 1/4 inch seams. Here's another sashing. This is called a sashing. Just to separate these blocks. There you go. And then, just like on here, I had done a white and a red, but this one I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it a little bit more dramatic. I'm going to actually put an end. You always do your end pieces first. So there's a piece there. I'm going to come down. I cut that pretty, I'm using the actual peacock fabric. Now I already cut my lengths. I'm just laying this out to show you. I won't bore you how it's actually sewn. And then the bottom one. And I'll just sew my borders on, my sashing, my borders with this pretty peacock fabric. And look at that. Look at that. 3 little blocks, and I have, in a couple of hours, when I actually quilt it, I have a finished table runner. So it's simple. I did measure. I do measure with my rulers, the sashing and the border pieces, but it's simple. It's going to be done, and you're going to be thrilled that you have something at the end of the day, literally, that you've made from start to finish. I'll do another tutorial actually how I sandwich these things together. My backing, my batting, I use safety pins, but that's for another day. But for now, construct your quilt top. Make your blocks, perfect your points. It's so exciting. Oh, I did say I was going to tell you, where's that piece of paper, Elliot? Oh, I did say I was going to tell you quickly, this quilt block is made with 10-inch squares, right? Well, if you want, look what I've done. I made these blocks, these pinwheel blocks. This ended up 5 inches, and I started out with, is this a 5-inch? Or is this a 6-inch? Oh no, I used 5-inch squares. I used charm squares, 5-inch squares, and a 5-inch square makes a 5.5-inch pinwheel block. So this may be, if you want a 5-inch block, you're going to start out with 4.5-inch squares. All right, am I making sense? If you want an 8.5-inch block in sewing, finished block, 8.5 inches finished, you want to start out with 7-inch squares. So does that make sense? I ended up with a 12-inch square block, but I started out with 10-inch square fabric sewn together. So I hope that encourages you to do something that you're practicing on, but you can have a finished product at the end of the day. So, because I don't want you people to get discouraged. I don't want you beginners to say, I'm not doing this because it's just so hard. It's not. You just have to sort of fly a little bit by the seat of your pants and trust yourself and make something small, make something achievable, and you're on your way to then making a big quilt. So that's the whole purpose here. So I want you to also listen to this. Slow is smooth, right? When you go slow, you want to achieve a smoothness. And then smooth becomes fast. People are saying, oh my gosh, Jean, you're so fast. I am. I've been sewing a long time. I'm very fast. So I'm slowing it down. But you want to realize that. Just remember this. Slow is smooth. And then smooth is fast. And then on the flip side of that, small is smooth, right? And smooth is big. So once you become smooth and fast, you then can become big. But we're not there right now. We're slow, we're small, and we're smooth. And that's what you want to try to accomplish when you begin quilting. Not jerky, you want it to go slow and smooth. So all the best. I hope this has been a helpful tutorial. I enjoyed making it all together. We can do this. So like I said, thank you very much again for watching me and sewing in my sewing room. Okay, everybody, bye.